Welcome. My name is Michael, and I will be your host today. Today, we're going to be speaking of something that's so improbable that it just has to be true. Sometimes in this world, we find ourselves at a loss to explain things that occur around us. There are wild and crazy things that come into our lives, and these things do defy explanation sometimes. So what we do sometimes is simply accept them for what they are. One event that happened over 2,000 years ago fits into this category of events because it's just so very much improbable that logic says that it's impossible. Of course, I'm speaking about the birth of Jesus and the birth of Christianity. The events are so contradictory to logic that we are required to use faith to believe and understand it. But what about all these improbable things? How did they come together? First and foremost, let's think about this. If you are a supreme being and you have control of everything and everybody, why would you decide to come to Earth to help your people once they prove themselves to be, shall we say, unreliable? More than that, why would you choose to come by way of being born as a poor peasant child to a young girl? If you are truly almighty and all-powerful, wouldn't you come to Earth in flashes of lightning, thunder, trumpets, and with all of your angels? Why this humble route? The answer, of course, is that you as God love your creatures so much that you want them to be with you always, and that this is going to take some doing. True, you could simply will them to love you, to love one another, and voila, that would happen. But you don't want slaves. You want creatures to choose to love you so that when you created them, you gave them the choice to either love you or not. What happened was they were tricked out of their inheritance in the Garden of Eden, and they broke their fellowship with you. You could have turned your back on them, but your love was so great that you made it possible for the humans to come back to you. You yourself would broker the deal. What also makes the story of Christ and Christianity so remarkably improbable is the very way that it occurred. So many things had to fall in line to make things happen. First of all, there would have to be a mother. The mother would have to accept the position of her own free will, and she would need to be sinless. Mary was created, and because God is not bound by time or space, she was protected from the effects of the original sin committed in the Garden of Eden. She received the benefits of Christ's death on the cross before it actually occurred in human terms. For example, say you were walking down a path and you fell into a concealed pit. Jesus came and pulled you out. That is what happened when Jesus died on the cross to each one of us. He pulled us out of the pit. For Mary, it was different. The all-knowing God would know that Jesus would die on the cross for the ransom of many. So in Mary's case, she walked the path and she was carried across the pit before she could fall in. This was the favor of God. Now, the child was to be born in Bethlehem, but that's not where Mary lived. Enter the emperor. He looked at his treasure house, and he saw that there was a lot more storage space available that he wanted to put to use. He decided to call for a census, and so no one would escape being counted, he demanded that all would go to the town of their ancestors. Now both Joseph, Jesus' earthly father, and Mary were both from the family of David, and Bethlehem is David's town. So they set off on a donkey with Mary almost ready to give birth for Bethlehem. Now, I mentioned Joseph. Let's not leave Joseph out of the story. He was to be the foster father of the child, and to the outside world, he was the biological father as well. He had a struggle. Remember when the angel came to Mary to ask her to be the mother of God? He said, "Hail Mary, full of grace," thus showing she was highly favored by God. The angel did not bring the grace, he just stated what he observed in her. After she agreed to the angel's proposal, she immediately left to visit Elizabeth, who was in her old age and had conceived a child who danced in her womb when Mary approached. Now, Mary was gone for 3 months, and she came back 3 months pregnant. This was no little problem in her world. Mary and Joseph were formally engaged. At the time, this meant that they were really wed. This period lasted for a year, where the husband would be busying himself preparing a home for him and his bride. Now, Joseph was very much in love with Mary, and he was devastated when she told him that she was pregnant, that she was with child. He could do one of two things. Actually, one of three things. He could denounce her to the authorities, who would quickly try her and stone her as an adulteress. A second option would be to pay to have her sent away, to have her baby in private and never return to her hometown. And this is what he decided to do. Then he had a dream where he was told the whole story, that the father of the baby was the Holy Spirit, and he could be assured of Mary's faithfulness to him. So he took her into his home, and they were man and wife. So you see, the whole thing, though, the whole start of Christianity is so improbable. But as we look to the Bible, we can see where the prophecies made of the child fall into line, one after another. The whole thing was so improbable that it just had to be true. Again, my name is Michael. Please watch for additional chapters in the story of Christ and his church. Thank you.